So right now the rivers, or the washes, the dry riverbeds are running with the winter rains here in the desert in southern Arizona. And not that many decades ago, these rivers, some of them, used to run year-round or very close to it. And so a lot of the area has been slowly drying out with a lot of development, but also a lack of tree cover. So we used to have huge mesquite forests here that had enormous capacity for fueling wildlife. There were a lot of really cool native species that used to grow in these areas in forest-like conditions, even though it was a desert, still Sonoran Desert, with the cactus, the signature saguaro cactus and all those, but there used to be more water. And that's a change that's happened over the last couple of decades, and it's something that anybody can do something about, and part of it is planting more trees, desert-adapted trees that grow here. There used to be many more of them, and also finding ways to slow water down or prevent erosion or encourage water to infiltrate in areas. So here I am walking on a trail that is on a ridge. So it's this kind of beautiful, beautiful canyon area. And in this area, there used to be a lot of different types of trees on the mountainsides, including one called Emory Oak. And it has a really amazing edible acorn that's very low in tannin. And the more trees that go on hillsides and some in the washes, the more water and soil is held on the landscape. Here are the acorns here. This is, they're called bellotas as well. This incredible acorn that you can actually eat raw. One of the few acorns that have a low enough tannin content to be able to do that. This is a little bag that has a mixture of some compost, biochar, and a seed inoculant. So the seed inoculant is particularly, you don't need a lot, it's like a dust that helps the plants connect with the mycorrhizal fungi and other beneficial microbes in the soil, and it gives them, it's like a digestive system for the plants, so it connects to the roots and gives them a really strong growth or start. Most of these that we plant are probably not going to make it. They just might not be viable and might not make it, or they might get eaten. But if we plant enough of them, and a few do make it, it just gives just a little bit more. Food sources for animals. There's a lot of animals that rely on oaks in particular, certain types of caterpillars that rely on oaks, that food for songbirds, all sorts of different things. So oaks are an incredible species, and this is a native oak that is particularly valuable in this area. There's a spring near us called Beyota Springs, and another area called Beyota Ranch just on the map north of us. And so this used to be everywhere, and it isn't now. So it's kind of a special thing to see come back to the area. I like to also put a rock sometimes on the buried areas, and it just makes it that much less likely for animals to dig it up. The reason I add biochar as well is to try to mask the scent of this tasty nut. So I don't know if it'll help, but biochar sometimes helps with absorbing odors, so that's the goal. And again, most of these won't make it, but if a few do, this is a great thing. And you also notice the soil here is nice and dark and rich and holding moisture, even though we're in this desert area. So you can see this canyon landscape would do beautifully with more trees. When you are looking to figure out which seeds to plant, this one right here, if you look at it, it doesn't have any dark spots around the top. Sometimes that's indicated that it has a weevil or is not compromised in some way. It isn't cracked and it isn't discolored. So this is a good candidate for an acorn. Also, the bigger the seed, the more support the plants have when they first sprout. All the nut meats in there are energy for the future oak plant. So the bigger the seed, the more likely to be successful. Making sure you have viable, good seed for where you put it in the ground is really important. Ideally, when you're collecting them, you want to keep them moist. It's a living seed, or lightly dry, but don't get them too hot. Don't let them dry out all the way. They will go inviable. Planting beyotas in an area that they are adapted to, so they love kind of moist soil, so it is tricky for them to grow on ridges, but where there are other trees growing, or where there are washes or other things, they grew. They're hardy oaks, and they provide a tremendous benefit to people and wildlife alike. The more trees that are on hillsides, the more when rain hits it, it has an opportunity to slow the water down and have a chance to soak in, to rebuild soil. And so trying to find places where biotas, which are naturally in this area, used to be. There are oftentimes you can find them in washes, so as we go up and down these areas, we're going to be putting more and more biotas in the ground to just bring back some of this incredible food source for wildlife and people in the region. So another kind of fun way to plant trees in an area.